Hey, good morning, everybody, and welcome to the morning briefing here on Friedman Adventures. It's an exciting time in sport fishing here in Southern California as the light switch is on, and it seems like it's on everywhere. In fact, I'm going to make my bet right now that that surf fishing rod behind me gets bit by the end of the morning briefing. We'll see if it indeed comes true. I'm going to cover it all. We've got some albacore information for you. We have got yellows, sea bass, local fish biting. In fact, white sea bass everywhere right now, and I'll go through it all with you. The bluefin tuna bite is outstanding. Our Amigo 2-day trip departing Wednesday night could not have more options and look better for those of you who are on that trip. Hang on. If things keep going in the direction that they're going in right now, and I'll turn to Sean Roberts over there on the Pride. I talked to him at great length yesterday down at 22nd Street Land. I said, Sean, we've got a trip on the Amigo. I'm praying that things hold. And he told me straight up, he said, it's going to hold. I'm telling you right now, I've been doing this long enough. As long as we don't get any weather, you guys are going to be in sea bass heaven, maybe sea bass and bluefin tuna heaven. So friggin' excited for that trip. And of course, I'll be shooting a video on that trip. So can't wait to bring that to you also. So much going on. All right. JJ Garrettson, he used to run the Apollo when many years ago out of San Diego. And in addition to that, JJ was a deckhand on board the Pegasus and several other boats. Joe Chait was running the Pegasus in those days, and I was, of course, chartering with them. JJ is a super good guy. And by the way, I don't know if you know, but JJ's Spanish is impeccable. I don't know, it's been a few years since I've spoken Spanish with him, but he lived in Costa Rica for a while, as I did, and man, he speaks really good Spanish. Anyway, the Pikey is his commercial albacore boat, and he is in an entirely different zone right now. He's out looking for albacore, haven't found any yet, unless he found some this morning, and he's in a zone that would suggest a more southern migration. Hey, there we go. I just won my bet. What is that? It's like a nice Corbina. The light switch is on everywhere. I'm loving it. I choreographed that for you all. So JJ is in an entirely different area, which would suggest a southern migration. Fingers crossed. If you haven't listened to Bob Osborne's observations, they are keen and they are really interesting. He was on here just a day or two ago, and he'll go through it all with you. All right, let's talk San Diego. We'll start out there where the bluefin tuna bite, for the most part, is excellent. There are guys who miss every single day. It's the nature of bluefin tuna fishing. It's not that they do something wrong. It's not that they screwed up. It's bluefin fishing. Sometimes you get on a batch that wants to bite, and sometimes you get on batches that don't want to bite. A lot of fish right now in that 30 to 50 pound class. However, at nighttime, they're catching some big ones, those long range boys, mostly limits. And I'm talking about, you know, the Shogun, the XL, the Intrepid. Those guys are on it, and they've been having really good fishing, and there are some big ones. So what I'm about to tell you, and I'm going to give you some tackle tips, don't forget to bring your heavy. You do need to keep bringing it. Don't get lulled into a state of complacency by these 30 to 50 pound fish. And I almost want to bite my tongue saying that, because I come from an era when a 30 to 50 pound bluefin tuna was something you would die for. You pray for that kind of a fish. And now we're starting to talk about it like, oh, those little ones, those 30 to 50 pounders. I refuse to take this for granted. In fact, talking to Tom Durr, old-time captain, who's been doing this for a long time, he said, you realize how blessed the guys in San Diego are, because there is no albacore right now. You know, obviously, there hasn't been any albacore. And they've had this bluefin tuna down there biting for them for several years now. It's such a great opportunity. It's such a magnificent option. Not option, I mean, it's what those guys have been thriving on. And it's such a great fishery. And Tom said, it's like they've got them all in a pond, like a trout pond. And they go out there at night and they catch limits of these bluefin tuna. Man, oh man, are we blessed or what? It is really, really crazy what's going on down there. All right, so several boats limiting out. Those overnight guys are having that great nighttime fishing those flat fall jigs, working really, really well. Knife jigs, Daiwa Zakanas, All of those working super good right now in the nighttime. Sometimes as heavy as 300 grams, but a lot of 180 to 300 gram use, and in the daytime, lighter than that. In fact, the San Diego yesterday, 26 on the bluefin tuna, 30 to 50 pounders, nice fish, and they continue, and they want this to be made perfectly clear, to see a lot of that 150 to 200 pound tuna roaming around. So that's what I'm talking about in terms of not getting lulled into a state of complacency. So let me also tell you that San Diego recommending a 40-pound rod. We like fluorocarbon, so do they. You want to have fluoro. It makes a huge difference to your success. So make sure you've got it, your favorite fluorocarbon, or as we love, Greg Brown from Opsin Fluorocarbon. That is www.opsinusa.com. Put in FA, Friedman Adventures, at checkout, and you'll get a gift and a handwritten note from Greg, whose fingers are starting to fall off. He's written so many notes lately. That's going to be perfect for fly lining. Also, you want a 50-pound rig. You can use that for sinker fishing most of the time. Yesterday, they were using like 4-ounce torpedoes, sometimes as heavy as 8-ounce. If you get wind and current, you can even go up from there. But that seemed to be working really good, as well as working on the 80 to 120 gram jigs. Those seem to be the most effective. And they said anything shiny. You want something shiny. That seemed to make a huge difference. And they continue to see a lot of bluefin tuna. That bite is on, and it continues. It's in U.S. waters. There's some down there for the Ensenada boys still. It's really great fishing, and I am so stoked to bring that to you. Looking at the island situation right now, and I'll get to a tremendous white sea bass bite up in the Channel Islands, and it is flat good. And I'm also going to talk to you a little bit about slow pitching, that kind of method and that kind of lure. Taddy's putting out a slow pitch jig that was magnificent the other day on the Aloha Spirit. Gary Kwan was talking to me, but I'm getting ahead of myself. So let me take you back to the Coronado Islands, where there are yellowtail bouncing around there, not a lot. That bite has not taken off yet, and most people aren't even interested in that, because you go offshore, not only do you have that bluefin tuna, but you've got a chance at some kelp patties that are holding 5 to 15 pound yellows. You can fly line a Dean for that. So most people are driving by. That will get going. The Coronado Islands will get going, as there's been a signal, like especially down there at South Island and down South Kelp Ridge into the Pile. That zone is showing some significant life with regard to yellow, so we'll watch it very closely. But overall, not worth passing on this bluefin tuna. That is absolutely magnificent right now, and it just keeps going on and on and on. The wind has been such a horrible problem, and it's out of the equation right now. Long-range forecast looking pretty good. We're going to get a little bump of wind maybe Monday, and then it seems like it's going to calm down for our Amigo trip. Cannot wait for that 2-day trip. Man, I just see sea bass and bluefin in our future on that one. Can't wait. But Clemente, let's talk San Clemente Island. Been slow, been putrid in terms of exotics. Good bottom fishing, you can load up on the reds and everything else. However, Mark Paisano Jr., who runs the Amigo, said he looked at the front side of the island a few days ago, and he said conditions still not there, but he saw lots of yellows, big bonita bouncing around there. It's a powder keg. It's getting ready to blow. It might blow here this weekend. It would not surprise me to see SCI get going. And I can make a similar comment now about Santa Barbara Island, the Little Rock out there, as well as Nicholas. We're going to get a weather break. Look out. Those places have been the epicenters of wonderful halibut fishing, wonderful sea bass fishing. These big dropper loop yellowtail, like you're fishing Guadalupe Island almost. You want to fish heavy dropper loop. If you're going to Clemente on the Freedom or with anybody else, definitely 60-pound, 50-pound dropper loop rigs are going to work best. Most of the time it's going to be a 6-ounce torpedo, big hook, 5/0 hook, and you'll be in the driver's seat. And that looks like it's going to develop to me. So we'll keep our eyes on all those islands. That is really looking good. And I think you're going to see that bite here this weekend. That could really get rocking and rolling. And also, please remember that in addition to that heavy, you want to bring some 30, 40-pound fluoro. I like that once again. So please keep that in mind. Tying your dropper loops with fluoro or not, If you're fishing in the dark, many people say it is not necessary. Other people say, hey, I tie my dropper loop with fluoro because it's abrasion resistant, and that really helps if a fish starts to chew on the line or you run into a rock or something like that. So those are all things to keep in mind. The coastal situation, vastly improving right now. In fact, Tom Durr, who I mentioned, talking about that trout pond of bluefin tuna out of San Diego. Tom runs the Judith Ann out of 22nd Street Landing in beautiful San Pedro, California. Great little boat to go out and catch sea bass and yellows and calico bass with 4 or 5 of your friends or even your enemies. I mean, fishing's so good, you could fish with them and have a good time. But Tom is saying that this local bite right now has really started to take off, and he really wants to get out and give it a try, and so do I. Come on, Tom, give me a call. Let's go catch some calico bass, sand bass, because they are biting. Larry Moore, many of you know Captain Larry. He was out recently with Dave Dodge and some other folks, and they caught and released 60 bass and said it was phenomenal. Really great fishing locally here in the San Pedro, Long Beach area. And the victory registered 2 days in a row now of limits of sand bass, fishing with live squid, really all over the sand bass. That looks really, really good. A lot of people are saying those are migratory fish. I'm going to leave that up in the air for right now. We'll see. Maybe they are, but we don't see those clouds of sand bass quite yet. It's still early. It's about the right time. And with a full moon coming up here on the 14th of June, that's when you do see a lot of movement after the full, around the full. Those clouds of sand bass start to move in to the flats. We could be on to something here. That hasn't happened yet, but we are watching it very closely. Fishing that live squid locally, producing really, really well. Again, dropper loop, sliding egg sinker, rigs, lead head and squid, all of those methods working really well. And a similar kind of situation up there in Redondo, where the Redondo Special yesterday had an excellent bite. In fact, they had a couple of white sea bass for 10 anglers on the half-day boat, 11 calico bass, 10 sand bass. I am telling you right now, there are sea bass all over the place, including, and I left out Catalina because I wanted to emphasize to you, there's some great sea bass fishing going on at Catalina Island right now. It is really, really good. And that island, pretty much anywhere you find squid right now, if there's any squid around, that's where the sea bass are. John Dipley told me many moons ago, many of you know him, find the bait and you'll find the fish. So you need to find that squid nest, exploit it by fishing near there. Man, it's really good at Cat. There's squid at Clemente. There's squid at Santa Barbara. We talked about this early in the year, if you all remember. We talked about how that squid was way up there off Monterey a year ago, moved down to the Channel Islands and spread down in here to Catalina and all these islands. And that is the magnet that's working for us right now. And that's why I've got my fingers crossed on the Amigo trip, when the limit, by the way, goes from 1 to 3. Man, the stars are aligning. So Catalina, Clemente, Santa Barbara, Nick, all looking like they could get rocking and rolling really, really soon. And speaking of rocking and rolling, how about that Endeavor and Tucker McCombs? No big surprise. If there's a sea bass bite, he's going to get on it. Ventura Harbor, sport fishing, rocking and rolling. Even the local boats are getting in on this on many, many cases. So don't forget, guys that are fishing 3/4 at Cody Rogers on the Island Spirit, other guys can get a piece of this and sometimes limits. But on the Endeavor, they had limits of white sea bass and a tremendous bite. And Tucker told me he was amazed with the quality of the fish. A lot of 20 to 45 pound white sea bass, some bigger fish than that, biting the live squid really, really well. I'm going to get into slow pitching here in a moment, and Gary Kwan from Taddy Lures, but just a magnificent trip. And also they had 12 halibut on that trip. There's halibut, there's sea bass. It's just as good as you could possibly want it. And let me tell you also, there's many boats up there. The Aloha Spirit's been rocking and rolling. There's several other boats that have had limits. As we've been mentioning to you for quite some time, the only thing that the Channel Islands are missing was a weather break. And I thought if they got that weather break, you would see what is going on now. And fortunately, every once in a while I get one right. That is a tremendous bite that is going on. And another thing that really excites me about this kind of bite, there's so many guys who are catching their first white sea bass. One of those guys is Roderick Fomby. Roderick, way to go, man. Nice fish. I fished with him here recently. He's a big Friedman Adventures fan. Love the guy, and I'm so happy to see you with that big white sea bass, your very first Friedman Adventures. Congratulations to you and to everybody out there who are catching their first white sea bass. I'd love you to send me a photo if you do that, and we'll try to include you here on the morning briefing. Really great stuff. All right, Gary Kwan, Taddy Lures, recently on the Aloha Spirit. Gary said it was an epic trip. It couldn't have gotten much better, and I could see that by the photos. Wow, beautiful big white sea bass on the Aloha Spirit. And one of the principal reasons Gary was out there was to take a new Taddy lure and see how it worked on the white sea bass, a slow pitch lure. And man, oh man, did it work well. Incidentally, on that trip with Gary, Mike Armenta from the Turner's Rotten Reel Club with a 45-pound WSB. Another congratulations going out. What a tremendous jig. Now, slow pitching was popularized in Japan, and it's evolving throughout the world right now. And Gary and Taddy Lures are a big part of it. The Taddy Hybrid slow pitch jig, and it's a squid color, available at 22nd Street. I know they've got it, and also available at Island Fishing Tackle in Carson, California. Sam De La Torre's got them over there. So that is something you want to definitely look into, because they were very effective on the Aloha Spirit trip. Really working really well. And once again, let me just go into this a little bit. Gary tutored me on this, so I give him all the credit. But these things, these jigs flutter on the fall, and they are irresistible to fish like white sea bass. They work really, really well. If you pull up just a little bit or take a quarter turn on the reel, they flutter, they dart, they make this movement that really, really gets to the fish and makes them want to come over and chomp it up and bite it. And it worked really, really well. In fact, on the cover of today's video, you can see that jig. Gorgeous photo of that white sea bass, that slow pitch lure. It works really, really well. Now, Phoenix Rods makes slow pitch outfits, and Gary said they were using that to great success. However, if you buy one of these jigs, and you might want to think about that for our trip on the Amigo, I'll be sending out tackle recommendations as we get closer to the trip. I don't want to have you go out and buy stuff that you're not going to need, but it's looking like you're going to need that right now. If you don't have the slow pitch outfit, any rod will work. All you need is a soft tip. And the key to this is slow, okay? Slow, 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 slow. This is not winding on the jig as fast as you can. This is slow, super effective. Great trip on board the Aloha Spirit. And Gary Kwan, for those of you who've never met this gentleman from Taddy Lures, he's not only a good friend, he's not only a really capable fisherman, but he's just a really good guy. And he was there at our jig casting in the park. We're gonna have another one of those here very shortly, and perhaps jump on the Monte Carlo in the afternoon right after. We're working on those details right now. But Gary, he's so patient. He went from angler to angler. He tutored. He was really great. He's that kind of a guy, so I really appreciate it. And you want to check out that Taddy lure. If you're going sea bass fishing, you could really help yourself a lot with that lure. Grunion Run coming up on June the 14th. That's only going to get this surf fishing bite going. I think he's bit again on another rod here. That's only going to get this going even more and more and more. We are looking at really great stuff here on the beaches. Once again, there's been some good halibut fishing down there around Bolsa Chica. That is an area that you could exploit. Down around Dana, also some good halibut fishing going on down there. And a lot of Corbina up and down the beaches. We've already seen one caught here this morning. So Corbina, yellowfin croaker starting to get into the catches. Saw one of those caught this morning. There is a lot of activity in the surf up around Long Beach. Throwing a Lucky Craft lure has also been super, super effective. So things in general couldn't get more exciting. And I really think this is the light switch going up. It's not all the way up yet. It's going to continue, and I think you're going to see some great stuff. I've been yakking about a good Barracuda score coming up here by the end of the weekend. I'm holding by that somewhere along this coast. someone's going to run into a bird school of gar, chuck the iron on them, and throw on 50 nice barracuda. Things are just looking too good with this bass fishing, picking up along the beach. We're seeing that also down there around Dana, down there around San Diego, starting to get better conditions. Water's warming up, fish are spawning. That is also looking good. A little sprinkling of white sea bass also along the coast. All right, everybody, can you tell I'm a little excited about fishing right now? It's looking so good. It's really coming together, and I appreciate you spending a little bit of time with me with that hot cup of coffee this morning on Friedman Adventures. If you have a trip coming up, I send you all my best and hope you have wonderful fishing no matter where it is you go. And remember, even if you don't get them, a day out there on that Eastern Pacific is a day that you should cherish forever, because we are truly blessed with not only great fishing, but great friends and a beautiful experience that awaits us all out on the water. All right, I'm watching that albacore situation, watching the commercial boys several hundred miles offshore to see if we get a window of fish moving in here. Surf fishing, bluefin tuna fishing, white sea bass fishing, halibut fishing, coastal bass fishing, and maybe a barracuda bite in our future, maybe a little later today. Take care, my friends. Once again, thanks for joining us here on Friedman Adventures. As always, it's my pleasure to spend some time with you, and I'll see you again really soon.